Hi everybody, I'm Nicole. This is my dog Opal, who I think you can see sort of in the frame. She may or may not hang out for the whole practice, but she always shows up when I come to my mat. So today I want to guide you through a short yin practice that can be a really nice practice to do really anytime you just need a stretch, but particularly at the end of the day. We're going to use a bolster. You want to have at least one yoga blanket handy and at least one block handy just in case, and then also a yoga strap. And if you have a sandbag, that would be great. You don't have to have it. So go ahead and get your bolster sorted out. You're going to start with the bolster horizontally across your mat, about halfway on your mat. And then we're going to start by placing our right hip on top of the bolster. So you want to make sure that your hip's not on the ground, but on top of the bolster. And we're going to start with a side bend. So first, just lie on the side like this. And again, just check that your right hip is elevated, so it's on top of the bolster. Your right arm will go forward and support your head. If it feels like you need more support, you can use a blanket. And then we're going to scissor the legs. So the top leg is going to scissor back. The bottom leg is going to scissor forward. If your top foot is just like hanging out in space like this, place a blanket or a block or a bolster or whatever you have underneath it so there's some support. And then your top arm can come up, creating a side bend here. And then just breathe. And we'll be here for maybe about 2 minutes or so. That's a suggestion. If you want to come out earlier or if you want to stay longer, you always can. And just allowing your body to be more passive here in this shape. Let your head be supported. I'm feeling a stretch on the hip flexor of my top leg and on my side body and through my arm. In a yin practice, we are staying a little bit longer and we're finding kind of a sweet spot between feeling some level of stretch and sensation, but never moving beyond where we can still resource ourselves and still breathe, still be present. So we never want to create any additional tension in the body. You can always adjust until you find a spot where you can stay. You can be mindful. And just another couple of breaths here. Eventually releasing the top arm back down, unscissoring the legs, and pressing yourself up slowly. Just taking a breath or two before switching sides. And then go ahead and start to make your way over to the second side. placing your left hip now on top of the bolster. Again, just making sure that as you set up that your hip is elevated, it's on top of the bolster, not on the ground. And then you'll reach your left arm forward, use a blanket, oops, knocked out my earbud. Use a blanket for a little bit more support here. And go ahead and scissor the leg. So the right leg now goes back, the top leg, bottom leg goes forward. And again, if your leg is really hanging out in space, take the time to put something underneath it. Whatever you have handy, blanket, bolster, right arm can reach overhead. And then again, about 2 minutes or so, that's the suggestion, but if coming out earlier or staying longer is better for you, you can do that. And finding your breath. So a huge part of the in practice is maintaining a connection to our breath when we're in positions that are stimulating. And feeling the stretch on the hip flexor of the top leg, the side body of the right side body, right arm. Just another couple of breaths here. Eventually releasing the top arm down, scooting the legs back together, taking a little bit of time to press your way up to a seat. And then just taking a couple of breaths before we move on to the next thing. I always encourage people to move if you're feeling like you need to move, if you want to do some cat-cows or child's pose or down dog or anything in between poses, do it. I'm actually going to do a couple of cat-cows that sounds like a good idea to me right now. You can do something else if cat-cow doesn't sound like the right thing for you to do. All right. So the next pose, I'm just going to keep switching sides back and forth here. Next pose, we're going to start the same way, but we're actually going to take a twist. And you want to have your blankets, your block, all of your props really just within arm's reach here because you may want them. We're going to start the same way, right hip down on the bolster. This time, instead of lying straight and coming into a side bend, we're going to bend the knees, stack them together, and right arm will come forward. The knees stay in the same position, and now the upper body opens into a twist. So the left arm comes back. And you want to, again, check that your hips are elevated on the bolster. And then your left arm opens back. And I really encourage you to use your props here. So a couple of options. If your bottom knee is lifted like this, place your blanket underneath. It'll make a huge difference in how this pose feels. Also, if there's a lot of space in between your legs, place something in between. You can do both also. it really does make a big difference to have that support, because you want this to be more of a restful pose than an active pose. So you want to try to set yourself up so that your legs can be more relaxed than not. Another thing you can do is support your back arm. You can put a blanket under your shoulder or a block under your hand so it's more supported. And then if you want to use your sandbag, you can place it here on your top hip. That just adds some weight and it can feel really grounding. So we'll be here for, let's say, a little bit less than a minute from here on. Just hanging out, letting this be a more restful, more passive experience than an active one. And take a couple more breaths here. And then slowly you'll start to come out of your twist, just placing your sacrum on the bolster. Take whatever props you're using, just slide them out to the side for now. Just rest here. Knees can be bent and feet down, or you can straighten your legs if you want to, if that would feel good, or take your arms overhead. Just finding a neutral position before moving to the second side. And let's go ahead and make our way over to the left. So from here, you'll just shift onto your left hip. Knees stay together and right arm will open to the right. Again, use your props either underneath your extended arm, underneath your left knee, or in between your knees, or all three. Support yourself here so you can rest into this pose rather than kind of fight your way, muscle your way into it. Couple last breaths here. And then slowly start to find your way back to center, letting your sacrum rest on the bolster, bringing your hands to a neutral position. Take a couple of breaths here. I'm just going to grab my sandbag. Hang out in stillness for me for a sec. And then the next couple of poses we'll do, if you have a strap and a sandbag nearby, we're going to use those. This strap you want to have set up in a big loop like this. If you don't have a proper yoga strap, that's fine. You can also do this without the loop. But if you have the loop, it's nice. And then what you're going to do if you have this is place the strap behind your back. It's going to be behind your upper back at kind of the level of your heart and your shoulder blades. And then you're going to take your right foot into the strap and straighten your leg. And if you don't have the strap, the loop, instead of looping it around your back, you'll just place it around your foot and then hang on to it. That works totally fine. You want to make sure that the strap is on the ball of your foot, not on the middle of the foot, but like right where your toes meet your foot. And then you want to press into it a little bit. And then maybe relax and just find what level of traction and tension works. So maybe more, maybe less. Your left leg can be long like mine is. If that feels too intense, just bend your knee, place your foot down. Either way is totally fine. This is a passive way to stretch into the hamstrings. And if you have the loop, you can really just chill here. You don't have to do any work at all. If you don't have the loop, if you're holding on to the sides of the strap, just hold on to it in a really kind of relaxed way. So let your elbows and your biceps rest on the ground if you can, and hold on to it, but don't pull on it. Don't do too much active work. Try to allow this to be more passive. You can keep your knee bent a little bit if your hamstrings are a little tight. Or if the strap is just a little short, if you have longer legs, your knee might bend a little bit. That's okay. Oh, and then the sandbag. Forgot. Sandbag will go on the top of your bottom hip, or can. It's an optional thing, but it's nice to have that extra weight. So making sure that you can breathe deeply and fully wherever you are, and know that if it starts to feel intense, you can adjust or you can release completely. And then in the next couple of breaths, we're just going to switch sides. Do that by shifting everything over. The left foot comes in, the right foot releases. Slide the sandbag over. You can keep your bottom leg bent or straight. Play with finding a little bit of tension, traction in the strap or not. Finding a place where you can breathe. And just another few breaths on this side. you're ready, slowly release your foot from the tap. And slide the sandbag to the side. Let the strap, just let it go. You can take it off or just release it where it is. Find a few moments of stillness. And get circles over it. I'm gonna go take a nap somewhere else now. Okay. So one more, that's not true, two more. Two more poses with this setup. The first one is called cobbler's pose or Baddha Konasana. So I'll give you a couple of different ways to come into it. One is to bring your feet together and your knees wide. You can also stack some blocks up underneath your knees for some support if you would like, something like this. If this is feeling like it's just not comfortable or it's too intense, I'll give you two more options. One is to slide the bolster forward just a little bit, just like an inch or so, not a lot. And then you'll bring your feet together and your knees apart, but off the ground. So this is a more gentle version. You're still getting that inner leg, inner groin stretch, but in a gentler way. And then your third option is to slide the bolster down a bit so your sacrum comes to the mat and the bolster comes underneath both of your knees like this. This is a more restorative option. You'll likely feel less of a stretch here, but you still will get the benefit of the pose. So find whichever option works best for you. We'll stay here for another minute or so. A couple last breaths here. And start to gently bring your knees back together. We'll finish up with one more pose with the bolster underneath the sacrum and the legs up to the sky. So this is a restorative or supported legs up the wall. Let's stay here for a minute or two. This pose has really great relaxation benefits. You can do it just like this or with your legs and feet up against a wall. Elevating the hips a little bit higher than the heart helps to stimulate the relaxation response in our bodies, allowing our parasympathetic nervous system to kick in. So if you're ever feeling stressed or tired, anxious, you need just one thing to do, this is a good thing to do. Find a couple more breaths here. And then eventually start to bend your knees. Release your feet and go ahead and slide your bolster all the way out, releasing your sacrum down. And then walk your feet wide and bring your knees in to touch. Constructive rest. With as little effort as possible, and start to make your way over to your right side and eventually all the way up to a seat. And you might close your eyes, keep your eyes closed for a couple of breaths, just letting the whole practice now land. And know that you can come back to this video anytime. You can keep exploring with these poses. Pick and choose what you like, do them in different orders, stay for a longer time or shorter time. I really encourage you to experiment and explore and see what feels the best for you and the most helpful for you. If I can be helpful in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can comment here or you can send me a message. And I'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, I will see you next time, and I'm wishing you all the best.